foundation for American views on fundamental rights and the government's role in society. In both the concluding and second paragraph of the Declaration of Independence, the focus is on the people's right to a revolution. The colonists asserted that they were entitled to these unalienable rights which Parliament denied them on many occasions. And when they realized that they were being denied these basic rights, they felt they had the right to break all ties with England and become free and independent states. And many of these concepts are discussed by philosophers Thomas Hobbes and John Locke. In Hobbes' theory, from a state of nature, a people is created when individuals enter into a social covenant or an agreement. And once this occurs, then legislative power belongs to the people. And this is related to John Locke's idea that no one has the inherent right to govern another person. Therefore, the only way for our government to rule the people is through a social contract based on consent. And individuals will contract with each other in order to form a civil authority government which is responsible for protecting their individual rights to life, liberty, and property or pursuit of happiness. And in Locke's social contract, people simply give up the right to do anything they want in return for social stability and the protection of their fundamental rights. And the second paragraph of the Declaration of Independence tends to focus on the basic rights entitled to every living person, while the concluding paragraph focuses on the rights of free and independent nation states. Unlike the second paragraph of the Declaration of Independence, which basically outlines Locke's theory of social contract, the concluding paragraph explicitly declares the colony's independence as a result of the broken social contract between the colonists and the British. And in doing so, they go on to list certain rights they have, such as the right to levy war, which they did to secure their independence.
The Declaration's focus on a person's natural rights shows that it was a combination of ideas from earlier documents. The Magna Carta and Locke's second treatise of government are only a portion of all the historical documents that share similar ideas to those stated in the Declaration. The Magna Carta stated that noblemen could not be punished except by lawful judgment of his peers. This right was evidently lacked by the colonists since the Declaration stated that he, the king, has made judges dependent on his will alone. The Declaration also discusses a history of repeated injuries and usurpations over these states. This is similar to the Magna Carta's law of the land, which ensures that a government or ruler cannot be named arbitrarily. This document reinforced the idea that there were certain rights that the government could not violate. Lastly, John Locke's second treatise of government stated that no one can be subjected to the political power of another without his own consent. This idea is clearly being referenced to by the Declaration, which states that governments are instituted among men, deriving their powers from the consent of the governed. Overall, human rights found in various historical documents were reinforced in the Declaration as being rights the colonists had been denied.
When our founding fathers decided to declare the colony's independence as a result of usurpation by the British, they knew it was a drastic measure. This historical foundation for the founders' actions came from the Renaissance and Protestant Reformation in Europe, which emphasized the importance of the individual. Furthering the idea of individual rights was the Age of Enlightenment in the late 17th and 18th century. The Enlightenment promoted human reasoning to understand the natural world and the laws that govern it. This contributed to the founders and colonists' belief that human reasoning and observations are the best way to understand government and societal institutions. Therefore, by appealing to the opinions of mankind, founders were reinforcing the importance of the individual, which was slowly becoming acceptable. Since some individuals may question opinions of mankind, the document ends by justifying mankind's opinions with a higher law, where the supreme judge of the world further convinced the colonists to rebel against the British in support of independence. By appealing to the supreme judge of the world, we see that there are basic natural laws which govern the science of politics that the government cannot violate.
There's a mention of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness / property. Locke, of course, mentions property, but the natural right of property disappears in every declaration of independence. Jefferson, Sunday,
Boston. That was really important to the colonists. There was an abundance of land, so that was really important, unlike when they were in England.
I always found that the pursuit of happiness, the term, was almost a play of words, because it doesn't necessarily guarantee someone to become incredibly happy, since happiness is different for everyone. There's a variety of how people get happy. And I assume that Jefferson was aware of this, that the pursuit of happiness would probably include materialistic secular belongings, which in other terms is a kind of poverty.
We think that the Declaration of Independence was a document to declare independence, but also it was used to convince the colonists to rebel against the British. At that time, Britain was their mother country. It was the strongest nation, pretty much, and so you needed to convince all the colonists that there was a reason for them to rebel.
Also, the Declaration of Independence, I personally believe, is probably the most famous petition ever recorded, because that's basically what it is, right? It's a Declaration of Independence, in which people who wanted to create the United States signed and supported with the supreme judge of the world, and they further try to influence their fellow colonists in order to establish the United States.
Okay, explain to me and the other judges how Thomas Jefferson could write that all men were created equal while he held slaves his entire life.
I think that has a lot to do with the times that they were living in, and that they, I guess, the definition of human beings or people back then, but it's definitely different.
I know Jefferson had many slaves, but I'm pretty sure I thought he was one of the few that treated his slaves rather. He was against slavery, I think, and even at the time of the Declaration, but he
If
knew
he
that.
was against slavery, why didn't he release his own slaves?
Well, Jefferson, I'm not sure exactly, but they must have had a kind of relationship. From the books that I've read, I can't recall any titles, but he did treat slaves, or his slaves, with more kindness, and he was one of the few supporters or advocates to end slavery in the Declaration of Independence, which was not encouraged at that time. So I would assume that there was a kind of relationship between him and his slaves, that they could cooperate, and that they weren't exactly looked inferior upon, but almost, well, not inferior necessarily, but there was a kind of cooperation.
Could it be said that the colonies were already independent at the time they declared their independence?
No, I don't think they were, because they were still being taxed by Britain, even though they didn't want to be, and they were forced to quarter soldiers and do things under British law. So they weren't independent.
Is there a sense in which the colonies were?
Yeah, I think in some ways they were independent because the British, basically they left them alongside, turning that they had nothing to do. The only thing they basically controlled was trade, which affected them because they had taxes over them, and much of government was left to the colonists.